Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Rope Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Rope Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, thanks for stopping by Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. I am TC. I'm your host. I'm sporting fresh shave, all the way over. I decided to go without the beanie for a few shows. No, that doesn't mean the beanies aren't available. They are available, and they're worth the money. I have a good friend Sarah who's watching can attest to the fact that they're great. And they do keep your head warm. And the last thing I need right now is to keep my head warm. But I've got some wonderful stuff, got some wonderful merchandise. The biggest thing that you guys could do is you can head over to my Subscribe Star. I could really use the help over there. If you haven't signed up yet, it's Minnesota Black Robe Regiment podcast on Subscribe Star. And pick a level of support. Help me keep the internet going. Working on a different system for the internet, by the way, because I really don't need cable. I don't watch cable that much, but I am working on a potential option that's going to be. See, oh yeah, Sarah says, "Yep, love mine." See, she does. She loves her beanie. But I am working on an option for my internet service provider that should be actually very interesting. And if it works out the way I think it's going to work out or the way it should work out. But in the meantime, head over and shoot me some support. Notice I said shoot me some support. I didn't say shoot me. We don't want that. Don't shoot TC. TC does not need to be shot, by the way. And if you haven't, by the way, Cletus just released a short. He spotted a rare subspecies of the Parate vias feeding in Spring Valley, feeding on the lifeblood of its prey this morning on his way to work. And so Cletus put that video up. I told him try not to interfere with Monday Night Musings, but he put it up just a little while ago anyway, because he just doesn't listen. He's a stubborn Southerner. You know how them Southerners are. You all know who I'm talking about. All you Southerners. But so tonight, I had petitioned to have a man named Chad Hasen on. I have been interacting with Chad on social media for the last, about going on 3 years, honestly, since right around the time that I met the Patriot Princess Lisa Hansen from Albert Lee. Chad would comment on Facebook just deriding Lisa, deriding me for talking about our constitutional rights and our constitutional liberties. And there again, those things are not given to us by the Constitution. They are the natural rights of man. But over and over and over again, I had petitioned Chad to come on and put his money where his mouth is and really, step up to the plate and dismantle my arguments for why I was wrong about, pretty much everything as it relates to the COOF protocols that were put in place by governor of Marxisota. Not you, Chad, another Chad. Not you. Chad says, I never wanted to embarrass you. No, not you, Chad. Chad Hasen, not Chad Catter. I don't know what I said to get an excuse me there, Sarah, but yeah, so I had been wanting to get Chad Hasen on to come on, and so I'm going to show you this conversation that we had regarding a video that I put out initially back in early 2001, prior to the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office unconstitutional infringement upon my First Amendment liberties, those natural right to the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression. And I put the video up and then was ordered to take it down by Sheriff Kevin Torgerson, a la Chief Deputy Brian Howard, who is now the Chief Deputy of Law Enforcement over instead of the Chief Deputy of Detention Services. So just think about this. These are the guys who are in control of and in charge of how Olmsted County deputies are to proceed and operate when it comes to your natural rights as they're enshrined in the Constitution. But anyway, I put this video up. It's called The Video That Terrified Albert Lee, Minnesota City Attorney Kelly Martinez and Police Chief J.D. Carlson. And by the way, folks, if you're interested in coffee or merchandise, you can email me at mbrrpodcast, and I will give you all of the information that you need to be able to order. So Chad watched that video a little over 2 weeks ago, and he commented, and I'm going to show you folks what his response or his comment to me was. If I can remember how to operate this crap, it's been so long since I've done that. That's not true. It's only been 2 weeks. But here we go. Got it. Let's see the best way to view this. There. Now you guys don't have to look at my ugly mug. You can just look at this. So I don't know if you can see it. So I'm going to read it as I'm going. So Chad's comment on this video started with, "Good job, Kelly Martinez. This guy sounds like he's as crazy as the brain dead Lisa Hanson." Now, folks, Lisa Hanson, you can have all sorts of views or opinions about how Lisa Hanson chose to execute her case. Brain dead is not one of them. The woman is sharp as all hell. She's incredibly intelligent. It is not her fault that the system is rigged against anyone who understands the Constitution, who understands the constitutionality of the way law should work, right? Natural law, the way it should work. Lisa grasped that very well. It's not her fault that Judge Joseph Butel did the bidding of Kelly Dunn Martinez and forbade any mention of the Constitution by Lisa Hanson and by me when I was called to testify against Lisa, which I didn't really do. I didn't testify against her at all. But Lisa's anything but brain dead, and I would note that Chad is definitely a Marxist. He's definitely a leftist. Everything that he said over the last few years are indicative of a sold-out leftist. And yet, remember, these are the people that say that we're not supposed to other people, we're not supposed to label people with derogatory terminology. But here he is saying this guy sounds like he's as crazy as brain dead Lisa Hanson. And so I said, let's play a game, count the logical fallacies. And so Chad's response to me was, "Do you know what a logical fallacy is?" And then goes on to say, "Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt." Now, notice who's insulting here. So I do what I want to do in most of these situations, and I say, "Hey, Chad, I'd run circles around you in debate about the philosophy of natural rights and the authority of the state as contained in the U.S. Constitution. Moreover, I'd shred you in a conversation about logical fallacies and the surge in their usage by leftist ideologues such as you. I've watched you do drive-by postings and comments for 3 years. I've even offered you the chance to come on my platform and defend your position numerous times, but you've never taken the invite. So here it is again. If I'm crazy, a very bigoted pejorative on your part, and too stupid to understand logical fallacies, it should be easy for you to devastate me, live, on stream, on my platform. I already know how you'll respond, but I'll wait for you to do it before I say I told you so. So a week from tomorrow night, 6/12/2023 at 19:30 hours, I'll set aside the time for you to join my stream and embarrass me publicly. Now, then I immediately after this took a screen grab of this dialogue, posted this over or tweeted this out and said Chad will be dismissive. He'll say some sort of, oops, sorry about that, guys. He'll make some sort of derogatory comments about me, begging off somehow by insulting my intelligence or my character or something. So, Chad, not to be outdone, said, "Dear God, you're threatening to embarrass me in front of your platform of viewers. I do feel kind of flattered that you've offered me multiple chances over 3 years to debate a person with your superior intellect, but I legitimately have no idea who you are." Which I'm not saying he remembers interacting with me on social media, but the chances are, if he really thinks about it, he does. I just ran across this video on YouTube. The only reason I even commented was because I was surprised to learn that someone in this area was as crazy as Lisa Hansen. Just out of curiosity, if I come debate you in your basement studio, will your mom make us some mini pizzas? I called it, folks. The day that I told him, come on the podcast to debate me, to embarrass me on my own platform, to devastate me on my own platform, I said he would do something almost exactly like what he did here. So last night, 12 hours ago, I posted the link and the time in the comment section because I don't know how to reach this guy. I'm not going to chase him down. And this is how he never responds. This is how, folks, what we need to understand is this is how people in our society today are. And don't think it's just a libtard problem. Don't think it's just a um, uh, leftist problem. Many people who consider themselves to be conservatives, I would say mostly normie cons and neocons, have exactly the same mentality. They have the exact same approach. They cannot handle any kind of dissent from their view, and they cannot handle any challenge to their view when you say, come and prove yourself to me. Prove me wrong. They can't do it. And so I want to point you to, I'm going to use the term friend loosely here because I had Clint Russell from Liberty Lock Pod, or Liberty Lockdown, excuse me, the podcast, Liberty Lockdown. So, fellow podcaster and commentator on all things social and political philosophy, Clint Russell was on here a couple of months ago, and I'd say friend in the sense of we have a lot of the same views. I've had him on the show, and if you haven't checked him out, please go and listen to Liberty Lockdown. Clint's been on the forefront of a lot of what's been happening for the last few years, just like me. Clint now runs in circles that I can't even begin to dream of running in. I mean, this guy has been on with Dave Smith. He's been on Tim Pool. He's been on just numerous programs. And he's got Spike Cohen on tonight for a show. And one of his most recent shows, let me see if I can find it here, was about a proposed debate between Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Gosh, is it Hates? And forgive me for stumbling over that, but let me see, where is it at? Yeah, there it is. It is called Breaking Free from the Intellectual Dark Ages. And in that episode, Clint talks about a lot of the same stuff. And it has everything to do with Rogan and Dr. Peter Hotez. Excuse me, that's it. It's Dr. Peter Hotez. Joe Rogan had Peter Hotez on his show here just last week, I think it was, and it was a phenomenal appearance. And the challenge was issued that Hotez, who came on and demeaned um, Clint and uh, Elon Musk, and I think he even lumped in Jordan Peterson in there, and said that these guys are, borderline, if not full-fledged neo-fascist, and that it's a very concerning and problematic expression of our culture the way it is. And so Joe Rogan offered to pay, I think it was $100,000 to bring to a charity of choice of Hotez to come on and debate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. about things like the jab. And Hotez just immediately went into belittling and demeaning mode, and so everybody on the philosophical left has come out and has just been lambasting Rogan and others, and it's disturbing. But it's the example, or it's the reality of where we're at. If you interact with leftists, in particular leftists, not exclusively, but in particular, if you interact with leftists, they will, their only tool is to demean you and marginalize you, to other you, as they like to say. They cannot stand anyone speaking against their approved narratives. Now, it's troubling, right? And it should be troubling to us. We should expect it to be unsettling to see this, because you can have no discourse anymore. And many people today, think it's just this passing fad, that things are going to get better and everything's going to be okay. And I got news for you. This isn't going to get better, folks. Clint, in that episode that I mentioned, said, "Look, we're going to win this." I don't know that we are. And I'm going to show you why my perception of this is that we're not necessarily going to win this, because I don't necessarily think that we are going to win this, because of what's happening to Dr. Peterson in Canada. And I'm going to show you this right now. So Dr. Peterson posted this just on June 16th. A court in Canada is going to rule on the @CP Ontario decision to sentence me to mandatory re-education on June 21st for my reprehensible political views. The process is called judicial review. Now, basically how this will play out for Dr. Peterson is that he has to show contrition. And he mentions here, maybe they'll remind me during my re-education. By the way, it's of unspecified duration, to continue until their social media experts are satisfied that I've learned my lesson. And note, I have already been sentenced. I told @CP Ontario to go to hell. They're supposed to haul me in front of a public disciplinary hearing in consequence, but are dragging their feet. Folks, these are re-education camps. You've got to understand this. And I even said, as part of this, that you have to understand this is coming to the USA, and that your normie-con neighbors will turn you in to save themselves. And it's patently true. Look, re-education camps are coming to the United States. We've seen that play out over and over and over and over again here in the US since March of 2020. People losing jobs for having unpopular opinions about COOF protocols, people being persecuted, maybe not quite losing their jobs, but being persecuted by their employers for having unpopular opinions about everything from the Floyd riots to the COOF protocols to the jab mandates. I mean, Mayo fired, I think it was upwards of 7,000 people for refusing to take part in an untested jab. Absolutely refused to take uh, to to take part, and they were terminated for that. And you could sit here and say, well, that's not a re-education camp. Folks, that is what it is. And the problem with anybody who argues that it's not a re-education camp is that you're not paying attention to the fact that all of this stuff we were inundated with this from a top-down approach. And when I say top-down, I don't mean it as if they're actually superior, but from the federal state on down. You will do this, you will do this, you will do this. And all of the mega people out there fail to remember that their high and mighty potentate savior, Donald Trump, threatened federal action against any state that refused to keep their state on lockdown. And so people were sent to re-education. You either complied or you lost your means of income. You complied or you lost your ability to feed yourself. That is a re-education camp, folks. That's the reality. Now, do I believe that actual re-education camps are coming? And yes, I do. Especially if you're from a state like Minnesota. If you're paying attention, I had Representative Walter Hudson on just a couple of weeks ago. And we talked about his first session as an elected representative in the House of Representatives here in Minnesota. And we talked about legislation that regarded the Human Rights Commission here in the state of Minnesota, where this legislation was opening up, and I believe it was signed into law, passed, where you can be reported for hate crimes. And you, in the incident as it's reported, will put your name on a list. We'll put the incident, and if they can identify, we'll put you on this list that they're going to compile for hate crimes occurrences. Now, it's not a slippery slope argument. It is not a leap to say that you will then find yourself facing criminal prosecution for having violated hate crime definitions. Look, so whatever it is, you could say something that's, and one of the examples that was brought up is if somebody defended J.K. Rowling, could that be reported to the Human Rights Commission hate list as a offense? And the answer was it could be yes. Folks, they're going to put your name on a list. If you're not on a list already, and I know to my FBI agents that are watching me and my BCA agents who are watching me, and yes, I do know for a fact that I have been reported to the BCA and the FBI by the aforementioned Kelly Dunn Martinez and the aforementioned J.D. Carlson, Chief of Police of Albert Lea, still. And Kelly Martinez is no longer the city attorney of Albert Lea. She was kind of forced out, and she's now working in Olmsted County as a public defender. Convenient or what? So I was reported to the FBI. I was reported to the BCA. So I know that I'm being watched, but are you prepared to be watched? Because it is coming for you. If you're not being watched already, it is coming for you, and your neighbors will turn you in to save themselves. I had a conversation, I think I may have mentioned this one other time, with a coworker several weeks back, and we were talking about Minnesota's move towards gun confiscation. And people are like, well, that's not what it is. It's just, upping the red red flag law abilities and registration and all that. Like, folks, it's a precursor to gun confiscation, to firearms confiscation. If you can embrace that, like if you're on the left, embrace it, admit it that you know that's what it is, and be proud of it because that's what you want. If you're on the right and you can't admit it, then pull your head out of your ass and wake up to the reality that the people who are supposedly on your side aren't on your side. They're not helping you. Very few people in the House of Representatives and the Senate in the state of Minnesota give a damn about you. And that goes for just about anybody in any state, really. The Dems and the Republicans are just different types of authoritarians. They want their power so that they can determine who is going to be reported to what. But you are going to end up on a list for having a dissonant view. You're going to. Fear porn. Hello, LOL. I know I've been watched for at least 4 years now. I if I know you, fear porn, I apologize for not recognizing you, but I think we have a lot in common. So thanks for stopping by and sharing that. Um, they're all criminals, both left and right wings of the same bird of prey. Yeah, precisely. Thank you very much for saying that because it's true, and that's why I say they are all authoritarians, just depending on who's in power at the time and who gets to wield that authoritarian power. Now, the reality is that this is coming for you, and you have to be prepared. And this is what I was telling this individual, a coworker, when we were talking about guns. He goes, "Well, I don't have any guns. It doesn't matter to me." Does this not sound like the Niemöller poem, right from Nazi Germany? He said, "When they came for the trade unionists, I didn't say anything because I'm not a trade unionist," and I'm going to mess this up. And when they came for the gypsies, I didn't say anything because I'm not a gypsy. And when they came for the Jews, I didn't say anything because I wasn't a Jew. But when they came for me, there was no one left to speak for me. And so I was having this conversation with this individual, and I asked him, if the police say, "Hey, look, we're looking for your neighbor. We know he has these unregistered firearms, and we need to know where he is, and we need to know when he comes home. And so we need you to cooperate with us and call us." He goes, "Well, I'm not going to do that." And I said, well, but why not? He goes, "Well, I don't have guns, so one, I'm not worried about it." And I said, "Okay, but what about your neighbor?" And he goes, "Well, I wouldn't cooperate." And I said, "What if they say, we know that you know when your neighbor comes home, and we need you to report him. And if you don't cooperate with this, and you don't report your neighbor when he comes home, then we're going to also arrest you as an accomplice." And he goes, "Oh, I'd turn him in a heartbeat." And I said, "See? So you would?" And you go, "Yeah, well, absolutely. I'm not going to jail for my neighbor." And that, folks, is where we're at. People who would consider themselves to be on the right side of the issue will sell you out in a freaking heartbeat. If you haven't lost friends or family members over your dissonant views, and when I say dissonant, I mean patriotic, liberty-minded views, if you haven't lost friends or family members, I really don't know what to tell you. You're not doing enough. You're not doing enough. You have got to lose people. And you have to be willing to lose people for your dissonant views. And if you're not losing people, you don't have dissonant views. You just have slightly moderated views that some people might have a problem with, but overall society is okay with. And so that, my friends, is phenomenally important for us to understand. It's phenomenally important for us to get this. Look, you will end up on a list, and you will end up being labeled a dissident if you haven't been labeled a dissident already, and you will end up in a re-education camp, or you'll comply. And you have to ask yourself these questions right now. Am I willing to comply? Am I willing to cave in on everything that I believe? And see, here's what, fear porn. I have lost friends and family on both the left and the right. And exactly. That's a goal. That should be your goal. Like you shouldn't relish losing friends and family, but you should have as a goal that the left and the right are both pissed off at you and hate you. That should actually be a goal, because that means you're spitting truth. It absolutely does mean you're spitting truth. And it's not fun. Look, I can completely attest to the fact that it is not fun. I have people that told me they were going to stand by me every day for the rest of my life. Former coworkers that will not return text messages, will not return phone calls, that will not talk to me. And it that's a reality. Like, I'm okay with being hated. It's just the way it is. I'll give you an example. I talked about my Subscribe Star at the beginning of this. I peaked out at one time. I've had 15 supporters on Subscribe Star, and I'm down to 9, folks. Here, let me check, see if I've lost any more overnight or gained anybody. No, I haven't lost or gained anybody, but I'm down to 9. I went from 15. I'm down to 9. Uh, it, so yeah, they're all mad because I've always been a Republican voter till 2020, and saying RFK Jr. is a person I'd vote for this time really fired them up. Like, I've seriously weighed voting for RFK, except I have some concerns about his firearms control concerns and his views on climate change. And fear porn goes on. Sarah, thanks for saying I'm sorry, people. Right. Especially when you spoke up about Trump, right? I mean, dude, I completely relate to this, because I you can't call out Trump. I've got a few people that I've kind of won over and made them realize, look, Trump's not this drain the swamp good guy that everybody made him out to be. Trump is an elitist. He rubs elbows with elitists. He's always been an elitist. He's never going to not be an elitist. They just used him, and he agreed to be used. All this crap that's happening with Trump, the prosecution of Trump, and all of this is all a shell game, folks. It's all a freaking shell game. And everybody, and do I think it's going to have an effect? I absolutely do. But it's guys. Mark Zucker from CNN trained this guy for his reality TV career as the head of Apprentice. Trump is play acting, folks. Trump's not what everybody thinks he is. He is a play actor, and he's not the capitalist that everybody thinks he is. I try to wake people up, says Chad Catter. I have an attorney friend that told me he thought I was a conspiracy theorist nut until he started looking at what I sent him. He completely agrees with me now. And Chad, I'm still looking into your stuff, so I just want you to be aware of that. I'm just slow. I'm very slow. I'm not bright. I'm not well educated, and I'm slow. So this is why I call this TC and Friends Monday Night Musings. I have a video that I'm going to be getting to here shortly, by the way, that I really want you guys to hang out and watch. See, Sarah says, same here about RFK. Fear porn says, me too, because the second says shall not be infringed. However, I do understand their language as well, and shall means up for interpretation or possible change. I don't think, I don't agree with your take on that. That shall means up for interpretation or possible change. Um, because here's Minnesota. I live in Minnesota. I don't know where you're from, fear porn, but Minnesota is a state that used to have as its concealed carry permit language. It said may issue, so a sheriff may issue a permit, and that was interpreted to mean that a sheriff had the ability to determine willy nilly, very subjectively, without any hard and fast predetermined reasons, um, what what grounds they would issue permits. And so people were getting rejected for permits that had absolutely no reason to be rejected, and people that should have been rejected weren't getting rejected because the sheriffs really could, do it their way. And so they changed the law to pin the sheriffs down and made Minnesota a shall issue state. In other words, unless there is a compelling criminal concern or compelling, actual, demonstrable, articulable reason why this person should not have a permit to carry, and we can get into the Second Amendment aspect of it some other time, a sheriff has to issue that person a permit. So, shall not, and I understand Black's law dictionary, and I appreciate you bringing that up. And nice to know that you're in Minnesota. Have we talked before? But anyway, shall means it shall not, or shall means you have to do this, or shall not means you cannot do this. And yes, I get there can be some. I mean, look, if we trust SCOTUS for interpretation on anything, let's go back to Marbury versus Madison, where SCOTUS completely screwed the pooch. I mean, let's be frank, SCOTUS screwed the pooch on Marbury versus Madison, and the pooch is we the people. Marbury versus Madison has one good quote, which is any law that is repugnant to the Constitution is no law at all. That's it. Other than that, Marbury versus Madison gave the Supreme Court more power than the legislature and more power than the executive branch, when they're supposed to be all separate but equal. And there are freaking normicons out there who are absolutely in love with the idea that the court has final say over everything. And so, like, we can't trust SCOTUS for interpretation. And we have to look at a lot of things very carefully. But where was I? Monday Night Musings, right? That's where we're at. We have to understand that dissonant views like us, people with dissonant views like us, Sarah and Chad and Fear Porn and others, we're dissident, especially if we don't toe that line of whatever the regime is telling us right now, whether it be a left-wing regime or a right-wing regime. And by the way, folks, I'm going to be honest with you, we're done. We are done. There will never be an actual conservative ever in a position of executive authority in the United States ever again. And the libertarians, as much as I respect my libertarian friends, there will never be a libertarian in a position of executive authority in the United States, ever. Red states will keep the libertarians out, and so will the blue states. They don't have a shot of one being in an executive authority. Maybe in the House or in the Senate, in the legislature, you might get one who has a law degree who could be appointed as a judge, but you are never going to get one in a position of executive authority outside of maybe as a mayor of a local municipality or as the chairman of a county board. Maybe, because they're not going to allow it, and that's been part of this game that's being played with Trump. I don't know who Dave Hose is, Jerry Tuat. So maybe I do, but maybe I don't realize it. But we're dissidents, right? We have to recognize our dissonant positions. We have to recognize that people are not going to like us. Folks, remember that I run my own showrunner. So I'm getting messages from social media about the show, and also trying to scan this because this is Monday Night Musings, and I like to chat with my friends, and even my opponents or my philosophical enemies. I love to chat with them and read these things. Now, what I do want to turn to, and this is a place where I have lost a lot of support from people. is the reality that having been a back the blue guy for my entire life, really, when I started to come out and talk about the need for constitutional police reform, look, we're never going to get rid of policing in the United States, folks. We have to understand that. Policing is here to stay. Just like we're not supposed to have a standing army. Um, we Policing is here to stay. We have to embrace it. We have to accept it, but there are things that we can do. And so I came out and I've started to talk about policing. I've started to talk about First Amendment and Second Amendment auditors. I've started to talk about the need for constitutional reform. I am working on writing a proposal for legislation to be used at various levels, from the municipal state to the county state to the state to the federal state, that will require constitutional training of law enforcement officers. And you guys, some of you are out there going to watch this and go, well, they do have to know the Constitution. They don't, folks. I had former FBI agent Steve Friend on here several months ago, and we talked about this briefly. He was never trained in the Constitution, took an oath to the Constitution, but never was trained in the Constitution as a law enforcement officer. He was never trained, right? So there's a reality in which if we could affect change with local law enforcement, whether it be your county sheriff, your local municipal police, and even at the state level, if we could affect some change constitutionally, we might have an effect. But I start to talk about this, and I start to talk about the corruption within law enforcement, and the fact that it's a all pervasive problem within law enforcement. Doesn't mean that every cop is a bad cop. It doesn't mean that all cops are bastards. But the entire institution of policing has been corrupted. It has been corrupted. It is sick, and it is dying on the vine. Nobody wants to recognize it. Neocon, normie cons, especially, are rah rah rah, back the blue, and as so many people out there are saying as of late, back the blue until it happens to you is a reality. And I will point to things like school board presidents and school boards as a whole, or even superintendents of schools, using law enforcement to silence dissent. We just had a situation here locally. I'm hoping to get the individual involved, where the mayor of the town that I lived in used law enforcement to silence dissent. And I live in a town of about 2,700 people in southeast Minnesota. And the law enforcement officer complied. Just doing my job, sir. Just doing my job. And so there's absolutely a reality in which law enforcement has got to get past the I'm just doing my job and get to the truth of, does my job allow me to do this? And I had Christine from Radix Verum on. I've had uh, Ken Silva, the investigative journalist, on, and we're actually going to be doing a series together, the three of us. And I'm not going to tell you the name or the concept of it right now, but we're going to be doing a series where we talk about the corruption of law enforcement on a person by person basis, and seeing how far back that goes, and what exactly that means to our republic. Now, the video that I want to show you, it's very disturbing. I'm not going to apologize for it, but I am going to warn you it's disturbing, and there is no context in which this video where what happens in this video is okay. And this is why I'm hated by a lot of people that I was friends with, that told me they always would have my back. Why they don't talk to me now. This is why I'm losing subscribers on Subscribestar, because I don't back down from my principles and my beliefs. And it Southeast. Oh, here he says, it absolutely has. I went to college for law enforcement, and discussing things I saw locally in Southeast Minnesota. We are very local to one another. Made me throw away just shy of a 4-year degree in law enforcement. We need to talk. why don't you send me an email? I'm typing it in. Right now. Everybody else knows it, but fear porn. Send me an email. I'd love to talk to you. I need to log into that email again. I'm sure I've got stuff waiting for me in there. But what you're about to see here is not exemplary, but it is an example of the problem with policing as an institution in the United States today. And so we're going to watch this together, and I'm going to do some commenting. So stand by while I share this. And I know the video that I'm about to show you is a couple of years old, but that's not the point. There is just absolutely no justification for what you're about to see in this video. So here we go. Even the dog knows. So we'll watch that again. No context at all is necessary for anybody to recognize that what's happening here at all is a bad or is you don't need context to recognize this is bad. This is bad. This is an out of control cop. If you can see clearly, the gentleman, I'm going to continue to refer to him as a gentleman because I don't know anything about why he's being arrested, why he's being detained, but he's completely compliant at this point. His hands are behind his back. All they need to do is cuff him. No, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. He was not fighting in that moment. He did not pull away. He did not do anything. He may have been a little lippy. Too bad, so sad. Toughen up, Buttercup. If you can't take it when somebody's being lippy, that this is how you resort. This is what you resort to. Now, I want you to notice he immediately covers up, folks. He covers up. He never fights back. You want to know why? Because he knows he's going to die if he does. And there's something else. I want you to watch this female officer. Watch her. She's helpless. Do anything but get on a radio and call for backup. And this cop is so out of control. He's so out of control. For one, I've never seen, like, where did he learn to fight? Where did he learn to swing? That is not how you're trained with a combative individual to swing. Watch him a little bit. He's so mad he threw his glasses down. He lost his really cool glasses in that moment. I don't have, you know what? I don't. Do I think cops should be using, foul language on people? I don't. But this guy never fights back. He never fights back. You're not cooperating. Listen to that again. We're not going to watch any more of that. So, the reality of this situation with this individual is I don't care what he was being arrested for. How he was being treated is what matters in this situation. Now, this was about 3 years ago, and it's just now gotten to the point where they're investigating this and looking at discipline and potential criminal charges. But did you note how the female officer was reacting? Did you notice? She was helpless. And she wasn't doing anything at all, which makes her part of the problem. It absolutely does make her part of the problem. Now, you don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with me, but you're wrong. And if you'd like to come on and talk about it, let me know. We'll bring you on and we'll talk about it. But this is the reality. That cop was out of line. That was criminal conduct. And he threw that out there. You're not complying. He threw that out there because that's what they're trained to do. You can act an ass as a cop and do whatever the flying monkey crap you want to do. And just if you're not complying. We're fortunate and this poor individual, this poor gentleman is fortunate that somebody from a distance was recording all of this and turned this over. Chad, I've already told you I'm working on I'm studying your stuff. I'm slow. But this we're fortunate this person turned this over and there is looking like there's going to be at least an investigation. Now, when you know what happens with law enforcement, 98% of the time when they investigate themselves, they always find that they did nothing wrong. It's like the situation with what happened to me back on January 21st with the video being up with the Rochester PD at the University Center, at the Heinz Center in Rochester, where an officer assaulted me. And then the university president put his hands all over me and tried to steal my equipment from me. And Sergeant Ben Coling, I think I'm saying his name right. I had the audio too, I believe, somewhere. Called me back when I said I would like to consider pressing charges on the university president, and he told me if you do this, I'm going to suggest you be charged with filing a false police report. And then when I tried to file a report on Roussel, the officer who put his hands on me unlawfully, I was warned if you file a false complaint, you can be charged. When law enforcement agencies investigate themselves, they almost always find that they did nothing wrong. And that to me is emblematic of where we're at as a society. You have hardcore people on the right who the cops can do no wrong. The only people they hate in law enforcement right now are certain segments of the FBI because they hurt their boy Trump. That's it. They want the FBI disbanded right now, but normally they love the FBI. And the left used to hate the law enforcement community, but now they love the law enforcement community because the law enforcement community is doing everything that the left wants done. It's just the simple fact of the matter. It's true. Both sides are both in love with law enforcement. When you have both sides agreeing that the law enforcement is necessary and needed, and you like, have you not noticed that the talk of defund the police has gone away because the police have complied with everything the leftists want? I'll give you an example. I mentioned his name earlier. J.D. Carlson, the chief of police of Albert Lee, during the Floyd riots of the summer of 2020, when the BLM protesters showed up in Albert Lee, and they called ahead and say, "Hey, we're coming down. We're going to protest here." J.D. Carlson ordered his officers that were on duty that day who were going to be there that when the crowd kneeled and put their hands in the air, his officers were to kneel. They weren't given a choice. It was an order. They were to kneel. I have that on inside information, and they did. And there were officers who said, "I cannot be anywhere near this." Now, what happened to George Floyd was terrible. Shouldn't have happened. We can have a different conversation about what happened there and whether or not it was a setup. But what happened to him was terrible. Should not have happened. There's no justification for it. Like I said, we could talk about it. But when you've got a chief of police ordering his officers to kneel in the midst of a protest about how much they hate the cops, in even a small town like Albert Lee, which by the way just blows my mind because it doesn't blow my mind that Carlson did this because he's a leftist, totalitarian, authoritarian jerk who, by the way, was following me on Facebook, and when I called him out for following me, he blocked me. But that's where we're at. Law enforcement is caving into the left, and they cater to the left and they cater to the right, to the Republicans and the Democrats to get what they want, and they will enforce any rule, any law, any policy, regardless of whether or not it's constitutional, outside of a handful of officers, because they're only interested in maintaining the income for their departments or their offices, and they only want to keep their jobs. Now, is that all of them? Absolutely not. But it's a very small handful in totality compared to the number of cops that we have on the streets in the United States today, from the municipal level all the way up to the federal level. And this is why I've lost support on my Subscribestar. This is why they're mad at me. So if you're interested, head over to my Subscribestar. Throw me some support. I got like a $3 level. And I am still working on putting Subscribestar exclusive content up. It's hard because it's a limited amount of time or video that you can put up there. You can't put up really long videos, so I have to really chop them up, and that takes a very long time. So my apologies, but head over to my Subscribestar. It's worth it. My content is worth it. Damn it. I don't have original ideas. I just have a lot of new ideas. I'm going to show you guys one more video that has caused me a little bit of trouble, so to speak, because I have been willing to call people out for their stupid perspective on this. Now, the person that asked that question originally, that I wasn't stupid about it, but people's perspectives of this are stupid. This happens every year about this time. People see military maneuvers happening and they immediately go into panic mode. And so Luke Rudkowski used to be on with Tim Pool all the time. He moved down to Florida and he's got his own things going on now, and he's an incredibly intelligent guy. If you're on Twitter and you don't follow him, he's at Luke We Are Change. He's an incredibly intelligent person and very sharp, and I would suggest that you go follow him. But I want to show you this video, and this is where we'll talk about it a little bit, and then we're gonna end the night. I haven't ate since 6:30 this morning, so I'm working on losing weight. Shaving all the hair off helped. So we're gonna take a look at this video. For those of you that don't know, those are Osprey. So what Luke said, he says, seems like there's a lot of military troop and equipment movement all throughout the U.S. recently. Is this part of a drill or something else happening that they don't want us to know about? It's a fair question, right? It's a very fair question. Look, folks, this stuff happens every summer right around this time. National Guard and Reserve units are going into training mode. They have 2-week training exercises they have to do every year. And many times that means relocating all of their equipment to wherever the training centers are. There's a training center. Well, there used to be. I don't know if the training center's still down in Louisiana, but there was one in Louisiana. There's one out in California, and that's where a lot of these people go. And so you will get video after video after video after video after video from people who are seeing trains with Bradley fighting vehicles and Abrams tanks and howitzers and everything else, just coming from all over the place. You'll see aircraft because, aircraft travel by flying. Sometimes they'll load like helicopters onto trains as well. But it's just a reality that this people are going to panic. And so I point out, I said, hey, where is it? I said, it's summer, bro. National Guard and Reserves doing their summer drills, and this includes the need to move a massive amount of equipment all summer long. Videos like this crop up every year at about this time. If you see this in the dead of January in northern climes, be worried. And I mean that. But I had this guy come on and he's like, nationwide at the same time, along with joint training we're doing in Europe, seems odd, don't you think? And I said, no, not at all. Correlation isn't causation. When our military turns on us, they won't telegraph it ahead of time. And his response was, who said they're turning on us? I said, because the only reason for movement of this kind, apart from summer drills for Guard and Reserves, would be for suppression of citizens. And here's where like actual, genuine, whacked out people go, our defense against invasion. You are aware we are on the precipice of World War III, right? Did you know thousands of Chinese military-aged men have crossed the southern border? You are aware the Chinese own large swaths of land near military bases all over the U.S. And here's my response. I'm aware of the regime narrative of being in the middle of a war for democracy around the world, that the regimists have intentionally provoked both Russia and China to justify continued American expansionism. If the military is building toward a defense posture, we'd already know. And it's true. These kind of movements that you're seeing, if this was a defense posture issue, you wouldn't be seeing the movements. This would be happening under the cover of stealth and darkness. His response was, I saw MLRS, multiple launch rocket systems, and Paladins, bud. Do you know what those are used for? And that, yeah, bud, I say. I'm fully aware of what those are. The presence of such systems is normative for training. Again, movements such as what is seen in the posted video and others that are popping up are normally during the summer months as Guard and Reserve units do their 2-week FTX. And somebody goes on and says, I think there are huge military training exercises happening right now. For instance, there's a huge one in Las Vegas going on. Hence, some of the weird stuff people there have seen. The training areas have expanded to encompass larger space. Look, if something's going to go down, the last people they're going to know are going to be the civilians, folks. You're just not going to, they're not going to move this equipment all around. And no, I do not believe this is just a defense posture. Okay. It's not just a defense posture, because if it was a defense posture, one, you wouldn't be seeing this. If the reality is that the Chinese are invading us by sending people over the border, which I'm seeing video, it does look like there's some legitimacy to it. Are they here to invade, to do covert operations? Could be. But if they're invading us that way, the last thing we're going to do is do a massive amount of troop and equipment movement right under their very noses so that they're easier targets. That's not going to happen. And, fear porn, what you said, some of the movement is for the 10,000 troops they're sending to the Ukraine. I wouldn't doubt that they are getting ready to send some active duty troops over there at that level, maybe not into Ukraine, because we know we're never going to put troops on the ground, even though I've been saying for almost 2 years now that we had troops on the ground in Ukraine, and that was finally confirmed by The Intercept through leaks that we have had special forces groups on the ground in Ukraine since the beginning of the conflict that we provoked. And you're right, they are going to get their World War III one way or another. But once again, the reality of this is that this is just the time of year when people are doing training. And so there again, this is why people get mad at me. This is why I lose supporters on Subscribestar. This is why I lose subscribers on YouTube. This is why I have people on Twitter that block me. You can't be reasonable with people who are being unreasonable about everything that's going on around them, left or right. You just can't be reasonable with them. They cannot stand anybody that approaches something from a reasonable perspective. And you get labeled. People hate you for saying reasonable things or being honest about things. And they cannot stand it. They cannot stand it. Um, they they despise when you challenge them and you push them out of their comfort zones and force them to recognize the cognitive dissonance that they live in, and it hurts them. It really is painful. I saw a meme earlier said I can fix stupid, but it's going to be painful. I don't know that you can fix stupid, but if you could, it would be painful. We're gonna do. I got a treat for you guys. Even though I said I wasn't going to do it, I'm going to. I'm going to show you Cletus's very short video that he put up earlier. And if you would, folks, I'm gonna share the video. I'm gonna share the link here in the chat. If you guys would please share. Cletus does a great job, by the way. So if you would, click on that and put it up on your social media. Cletus deserves some views because Cletus is offering a very good service. He's studying the North American Parate via, which is the North American road pirate. He is documenting the different species and subspecies of the Parate via. And this morning, as I said earlier, Cletus was able to capture a Parate via in its feeding. And so we're going to take a look at this. It's very short. It's less than a minute because it's a short, right? So here we go. You guys ready to watch this? Cletus, you guys are going to love what Cletus does here. I can't emphasize this enough. But please go and watch it and then share it out. Cletus is amazing, and I am going to be sitting down, and Cletus and I are going to be doing an interview. I'm going to be asking him about his motivations, where he got his start, and who his. You're sending me another. Oh, here we go. Pay close attention here, folks. Cletus has got a new one for you. It is the North American subspecies of the North American road pirate known as the State Patrol subspecies in its unmarked version, which is a little bit like seeing the North American brown bear in its cinnamon phase, or black bear, the North American black bear in its cinnamon phase. It's just very rare, very, very rare. And right there, folks, you got to see it feeding. That's an amazing thing that you just saw right there, folks. You do not understand how much of a treat that's been just for Cletus, but let alone for you. You got to see it right here, folks, in Spring Valley. And it wasn't even the Spring Valley subspecies. Like I said, it was the North American subspecies of Minnesota State Patrol. I'm going to have to look up the Latin for that. But that was a wonderful occurrence. You guys are blessed beyond measure to have experienced that. Folks, that's Cletus. And Cletus is a great, Cletus is a great asset. And I think he's going to help us document this the subspecies and the species of the Parate vias here in North America. He's going to help us. And so if you have examples of the Parate via, the road pirate in your area operating, and you would like to send video to Cletus to be able to do commentary on the species, help you to identify the subspecies that you're dealing with in your area and in their patterns, you let Cletus know. You can send those comments about that either on the videos that Cletus puts out through the Minnesota Black Robe Regiment channel, or you can email Cletus through mbrrpodcast@yahoo.com, and he will gladly do some commentary. And he's going to have more stuff coming out. We've got some video that Cletus was able to capture up in the Rochester area that he's doing some commentary on. He's going to be putting that up here pretty soon. Folks, the point of the show tonight was to give Chad Hasten an opportunity to see the link and to join. As you can see, he's a coward and he didn't join. So you guys got a true TC and Friends Monday Night Musings, where we just kind of talked about multiple things under the sun. What it all comes down to. And hey, thanks, Skipper. People help TC with a like and a share. Absolutely, I agree right there. Super chats and super thank yous if you're watching this help TC as well. And then head over to Subscribestar. TC would really appreciate that. I know I've said that a bunch of times. TC could use the help. Not the kind of help that Skipper would accuse me of needing, by the way. Yes, he is yellow-bellied. Wait, me, Skipper, or Chad Hasten? But yeah, so guys, go down, hit the like, hit the share on all of my videos. Drive me up in the algorithm. I am being suppressed. I had a video that's got over 7,000 views in 2 weeks' time, and other videos, just shorts just like it, nada, next to nothing. So they are pushing me down in the algorithm. But head over to Subscribestar, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment podcast. Pick a level of support. Help me keep this thing going. I'm committed. Sunk cost fallacy, if you will. I'm here. I gave up a lot to be able to do this, and help other people find me. There again, I'm going to be bringing Christine from Radix Verum and JD, or it's not JD, Ken Silva on. We're going to be doing at least a limited series that's going to be up their alleys with the research that they both do. If you're not familiar with Radix Verum, you can find my interview with Christine from Radix Verum on here, and my interview with with Ken Silva on here as well. Phenomenal assets when it comes to talking about the feds and federal informants and undercover agents and what they've done in places like Michigan and in PatCon and things like that. And so the conversations that we're going to be doing for this series are going to be briefer. We're going to be focusing on certain individuals that have done certain things. You guys are going to really like it, but we are in negotiations to make that happen here on the channel. And they're both very interested. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, help me out. Order coffee, merchandise, brand new marketing on the bag, and help me out. That's all I'm asking. If you enjoy this, keep the support coming through likes and shares. And remember that if you're not upsetting people on the left and the right, then you're probably part of the problem. And so, my friends, until next time, fight for your liberty. It is yours. Fight for your freedom. It belongs to you. And sic semper tyrannis.
We are going for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at